What is up, fellow summoners? Welcome to the channel. Today, this is the third part in a 6-part series covering the road to the Labyrinth of Legends. This is post-patch 12.0 information that we'll be bringing today. So 4.3 for me, and I think for a lot of people, really you see the difficulty step up quite a bit from 4.1 and 4.2. 4.1 and 0.2, really you can bring in just about anybody you'd like as long as you play decently. There's not a whole lot you have to play around. Safeguard can be kind of a pain, but really not that difficult if you can evade and you can parry stun. When it comes to 4.3 though, you're introduced for the first time to the Spite global buff, which if you have spent any time in the Bautista event that's going on right now, you're fully aware of the Spite buff. Basically every time that you gain a buff, whether that be an armor up, a fury, regen, the enemy is going to gain the Spite buff, which it's a power gain that they receive for the entire time that the Spite buff is active, and the only way to drop it is if you lose your buff. So there's really two ways to focus on being able to beat 4.3. You're either going to need to bring in champions that don't have buffs that they gain, or you're going to need to bring in champions that can control the power, whether that be a power lock, power burn, power drain, anything like that. So the team that you're seeing on screen, this is the team that I ran through 4.3 all the way when I was recording this. I do go back after I ran through it the first time and record a few other fights, but this is the main team that I used, which I've got Hawkeye in there, I've got Captain America World War II and Vision. All three of those, actually Magic, all four of those do not have buffs that they gain in and of themselves to trigger Spite. And then obviously Magic, Hawkeye, Vision, all strong power lock champs, power drain champs. Scarlet Witch, I brought in, basically I just wanted to see how she would do, but mostly for the synergies. She's got a power gain synergy there with Hawkeye, also has a crit synergy that she gains with Vision. That fifth and final spot is really pretty much open. I could have switched out a number of characters there. Beast I had quite a bit of luck with. Rogue you could take in, she's a decent champ. Dr. Voodoo obviously is a very strong character. If I had him, would have definitely used him. Ghost Rider might be another one that you want to throw in there. Really anybody that is going to have decent power control is going to be your best option. You know, you can do it by working around, trying to bait out specials, but it is so much easier and quicker if you've just got champs that can control the power from the start. So I will switch over here. We'll start with Iron Patriot, the All or Nothing node, and we'll jump right into it.
Now the All or Nothing node just simply means that he's not going to use his specials until he gets to 3 bars of power, which he starts with one full bar of power already, so it makes it even bigger and more daunting task if you don't have somebody who can power drain with an S1. As you can see there, I was not able to get to my S2 and power lock. I evaded back, gave him power flood for just a few seconds, and it was enough that he was able to get his S3 off. So Magic, she is a good option, but only if you can get to her S2. If you can get to the S2 like this right here, you'll be able to power lock. This is similar to the Bautista event, where you just kind of chain your S2s together, keep some power lock for the entire fight. So Magic is a good option, can be a little bit more difficult though, just because you have to get to that S2. Hawkeye is a really good option here, and Hawkeye will be a really good option for a couple of other fights as well. But because he does have a power drain with his S1 plus a strong bleed, plus he's not creating any buffs in and of himself to trigger Spite, so I can control the fight pretty much from the get-go here. Now there are a couple times where it's actually beneficial to push him as far into his S3 as possible. Basically, once you get Iron Patriot to his 3 full bars of power, any hits that you can put on him after that is basically free damage. You know, he's not gaining any power from that, but you are still gaining power yourself. Obviously, you will only want to do that if you know for sure at the end of the combo, like right there, you know for sure you're going to have your S1 available to be able to power drain the champ. As you can see there, my Hawkeye is at rank 440. I did just recently take him up to 440, and he's got a very strong bleed. I'm very impressed with him. We'll be looking to take him up to 550 as soon as I can. And then I think probably the easiest champ, and this is not the last time you'll see Vision. I'll bring him up many more times. But he is a very easy character to use in many of these fights because it's easy to get to your S1. And then I think after you do 2 S1s, you'll have to watch the gameplay here. But I think after 2 S1s, by the time you get around to your third one, you actually are going to have enough power built up that you can get all the way to your S2 and drain the power all the way down from the enemy. So yeah, I've used 2 S1s. So right here you'll see I can get all the way back to my S2, which is going to drain him down to nothing. And I am very much in control from the fight from this point out. So I do fast forward here to the end just to show you the other really beneficial part of Vision. As you can see there, with the S2, it does cause a heal block. And with the signature ability from Iron Man, he is going to regen a little bit, which is going to make fights a little bit longer if you're using Hawkeye or Magic. But Vision works really well there. Drax is the next fight up. Drax has got a strike back ability, so anytime that you're using a special, he's going to gain 1 bar of power. Also, you can see there the purple eye buff. That is the true strike buff, meaning that he's not being hindered in any way by armor up or any kind of debuffs like that. He's going to be doing quite a bit of damage. I found Magic probably to be your best bet here. Not only does she have class advantage, she's got the ability to power lock, so you're not dealing with the strike back. If you're using your S2 and it's power locking the champ, his strike back is not giving him 1 full bar of power. You can see it there. The other thing that's nice is because of the true strike, you can take a lot of damage even when you're blocking. So I try my best to do my parry stuns while I've got my limbo up. So there's a couple things there that make her a really strong option. Not Wolverine, Captain America World War II. This is probably one of the first fights you can bring him in that he'll be effective on. Because he has the ability to negate a lot of the damage that you're seeing as long as there is a buff active. Every time Drax is using his S1, as you see there, he is gaining a Fury buff. So for that entire time, basically every time that he tries to hit you, because of his signature ability, he's not going to be doing any damage. It's going to be a perfect block. The problem, if you want to call it this, it's just going to be a long fight. You're really not going to be able to use your specials because of the strike back, and you don't have any way of power locking or draining the champ. So either one of those are going to work well for you. Probably would stay away from Vision just because of the class disadvantage. Next up is Moon Knight. Moon Knight, he can be a little bit of a pain. He has got an unblockable S1. On top of that, obviously, he still has the Spite buff you have to be aware of, but he's got a tricky evade, and you'd be surprised how often that thing procs. He's not like a Spider-Man, he's not like a Nightcrawler, but I feel like it procs probably a little more often than Black Widow's does. I'm showing Winter Soldier here, I guess just for grins, but not necessarily the easiest thing to do if you've got a champion who does gain a buff in and of themselves. A lot of the times I've got a Fury buff. You can see it active there with Winter Soldier. Just makes the fight very difficult because as soon as he's done with that S1, he's getting power this whole time. He gets right back to another S1. So that's why I would probably steer clear of champions who are going to self-buff like that. Beast, if you brought Beast in for that fifth spot, this is a really good opportunity to use him. Not only does he have class advantage, he doesn't gain any buffs in and of himself. Outside of the health buff that he gains right here, you can see it. It only lasts for just a couple split seconds there, but that does cause power flood. He gets almost nothing from it. But the biggest benefit here is when he's in his acrobatic form. So it's that kind of defensive symbol you see there. You go into it by using your S2. You'll notice that when I'm hitting Moon Knight, he's getting almost no power back. Especially with his awakened ability, I want to say that the power he is getting back from when I attack him is lowered by, I think it's somewhere around 85%. So you really don't necessarily need to worry about pushing him, too far into an S3 or anything like that. Just go at the champ as best you can. Keep going back to an S2 so you can stay in that acrobatic form. And I don't know. Beast is an underrated character. This is just another fight that I can shine a spotlight on him. Doctor Strange is the first stun immune character. You're going to run into a couple of those here in 4.3, but you'll definitely need to bring in a champ who's got a power drain here. Don't even mess around with class advantage with Captain America World War II. You're going to have a hard time, going to have a difficult time dealing with this fight, just because if you do evade back, if you do give him a buff, the power flood on top of his normal kind of power regeneration there is a lot. It's really, really fast. So you're not going to be able to deal with that. He's going to get to an S3 really quick if you don't have a power drain. Hawkeye, I'm not sure he's the best champ here, just because you have to be really, really aggressive to constantly be getting to his S1. I think the better option here is definitely either Magic, because you can power lock long enough to get back to your S2 again and just kind of rinse and repeat that, or Vision. I think the stronger the power drain or power lock, the better champ it is for this fight. So it can be done with Hawkeye. You've just got to be a little bit more aggressive, and that kind of leaves open opportunities for you to make mistakes. So definitely Vision. Vision is the one that I use. I didn't even run any gameplay with Magic, but you can see even sometimes I'll evade back and wait for him to build up quite a bit of power before I use my S2. That way, when I do fire it off, I can do as much damage as possible, and I can also gain back as much power as possible. So again, this is another good opportunity to bring in Vision. I don't want to throw his name out there too many times, but you will see it a couple more times before 4.3 is over. Cyclops is the next champ you will run into, and he has got a power gain buff on top of the Spite. So this fight, I'm showing it with Captain America World War II, just because a lot of the fight he's going to have a buff up every time he uses his S1, which is pretty frequently. He gets that precision buff, so that does allow you, with his awakened ability, to take almost 0 damage if you are not comfortable with evading that S1. This was sending me back, giving me kind of nightmares when I was first going into Alliance questing, trying to figure out how to consistently evade that beam, which I'm fairly comfortable with it now. And to be honest with you, I am showing the fight here, and it can be done. It's going to be a long fight because of the power gain. I would probably skip Captain unless you're just not comfortable evading that S1. If you are comfortable evading the S1, though, I would probably bring in a power drain champ. Obviously, this is another opportunity, I just mentioned it, to bring in Vision again. Not only does he have the class advantage, and right there, not only is my my battery almost dead, but I've got Brian Grant breaking into my video here. What was I saying? Oh yes, class advantage with Vision. Really, a lot of the times, even if you're not comfortable with baiting out that S1 and evading it, you can even drain most of it and work around that as well. The other thing that Cyclops has got going for him is he does have that yellow sword that you see there. His combo is not reset. The higher combo he gets, the more damage that he's going to be doing out. But really, don't get hit, and you shouldn't have too many issues there. Symbiote Spider-Man can cause people quite a bit of issues. He's not only stun immune, but when he uses a special and he gains that evasion buff, which you'll see here in a second, it lasts for 40% longer. So you've got to do quite a bit of baiting out, and if you're trying to do baiting out, you're going to be causing power flood from your dexterity buff, and that just leads to a whole set of issues. So really, obviously, you can bring in a power drain champ. I wanted to show the fight here with Captain World War II. This is a fairly decent option if you've brought him in, because you can sit there and kind of ride out the damage that you're going to be receiving, the block damage that is during the evasion buff, which you'll notice the first time he did a special, I tried to attack him during his evasion. I was trying to show an example because he's usually going to evade back and hit you, and that's exactly what he did. So the first rule is don't try to hit him while he has that evasion buff up. So if you got Captain America, whether it be World War II or Classic Cap, really either one would work. But just sit there, take the block damage as best you can. Try not to evade back and cause that dexterity buff. A lot of the times, if you are just kind of standing there and blocking, he's going to come in. Even if he hits you a couple times, he's probably going to try to do a heavy, at which point you can evade back at that point and not cause dexterity. If you still have your magic available at this point, or if you want to revive her, bring her back in, this is a really good fight for it. Once you do get to an S2 and you end up power locking the champ, once they have used a special, you really don't need to ever worry about them going into evasion again. because you can keep them from getting back to their special 1 or special 2. You've got the class advantage. You can be pouring in quite a bit of damage. You've got your limbo that's pouring damage in as well. So really, magic is probably the best option for this fight. I'm not sure Vision's going to be too great just because he's got class disadvantage, but I would definitely bring Magic or follow closely behind by Captain America. Red Hulk is another great opportunity to highlight Hawkeye. I would not worry about anybody else in this fight. Captain America, the fight is going to be too long. Vision, it's going to be too long. Just bring in Hawkeye. You've got the power drain that you need. You've got the strong bleed that you need. You've got class advantage. And then save Vision, save Magic, and whoever else you've got for the Nightcrawler fight that's coming up. Hawkeye is an excellent champ for this. There's really nothing that I need to point out that is very difficult about this fight if you've got Hawkeye or a champ that's going to power drain. The biggest thing, I don't know if necessarily it's the biggest thing, but the easiest way to do it is you can see here, once he has none of those kind of incinerate buffs, I can't think of what they're called right now off the top of my head. It's like overheating charges, but the fewer of those he has, the more damage he's going to be taking. So if you can, try to power lock him down, underneath of his special, and to keep him down in lower charges. Once he does get 2-4 stacks, just let him get to his 6 with the special, just bait it out, and then let him drop all that off, get back down to 0. That way the fight isn't extended out too much longer than it really needs to be. The only thing with Hawkeye that you have to remember is he's very much a glass cannon. He cannot take very many hits. So do your best, trying not to take any block damage, because on top of block damage, you're going to be taking that additional kind of overheat, incinerate damage, even if you're just blocking. So try to parry as best you can, and really easy fight, to be honest with you. Nothing difficult about this. And then lastly, you will run up against Nightcrawler, which Nightcrawler has got an enhanced ability trigger by 20%. Basically, you're just looking at evasion. That's the big one. And the best thing that you can do is only attack him when he is stunned. So parry him, attack him while the stun is active, then get out of there. And then what you're absolutely looking for is right here, looking for him to evade back. Go in and attack into him until that timer wears off. He's going to be in his swashbuckling form, and from that point moving forward, all you have to do is parry him. He's not going to be evading back. You can just do your regular 5-hit combo, and you'll be good to go. I brought in Vision here, but to be honest with you, you really don't necessarily need Vision. It makes it a lot easier just because of the class advantage, and you can totally control his power. But really not a hard fight. He doesn't have an increased power gain, so you should be fairly easy to bait out his specials. I know a lot of people have issues with Nightcrawler. I'm not going to say he's easy. As you can see there, I did still take some damage from him. But really, it doesn't matter who you bring in. Just only attack him while he's parry stunned, and then the first opportunity that you have to push him into swashbuckling, kind of game over from that point. I know that this... I hope that I don't try to come off that these fights are easy. They are not easy. I remember when I was first doing this, I had Scarlet Witch pre-patch 12.0 with a crit team, so that made everything really, really easy. Now that I don't have really that crit team to rely on, and I'm coming back in here and relying on other champs, I'm now realizing how much more difficult that is. So don't feel bad if you're dying. These events were never meant for people to come in necessarily the first time and just run through them without using revives, without using potions. So don't feel bad if you've got to blow through some of your inventory. Don't feel bad if you've even got to spend a few units on revives. It's worth it, especially when you get in towards the end fights. If you're dealing, there's Turbo Tim, shout out to him. If you're dying on Symbiote Spider-Man, dying on Red Hulk or Nightcrawler, again, don't feel bad. Use some inventory and get through those fights. I hope this was a little bit of a help to you. Hope I've pointed out a few things that will help you moving forward. Leave comments down below. Leave questions, I should say, in the comments down below if you need help with anything further. All right, guys, until I see you in the next video, have a great day.
Yeah.